Last year, I had $100 in my bank account, no previous game development or programming experience, and today I'm somehow a full-time game developer. I know that's an absolutely ridiculous opening sentence, and don't get me wrong, I genuinely never thought I'd be saying that myself. I kinda cringe making this the title of the video because it makes me sound like I'm some sort of genius or know everything, but the reality is I'm incredibly fortunate and lucky to be in this position. I wanted to make this video to share my entire journey and to essentially document everything from how I got started game development to publishing my first commercial game on Steam, which reached number 2 in the mini golf category with the help of some massive YouTubers. This video is definitely catered more towards game devs or inspiring ones, so I hope you'll find some things interesting. I plan to talk a lot about my creative process, personal struggles, and some of the things I've learned developing and self-publishing 2 games on Steam. I'm also going to be sharing a lot of analytics and stats for them as well, but first I want to apologize because this is a long story and basically just a PowerPoint presentation with little editing. Before we get started, let me introduce myself for those who don't know me, tell you a bit about my background and why I chose game development out of all things. My name is Max Anderson, but I typically go by Anderson, Andy, Andrew, Ander, Amperty, Anderson, GPT, or Ampersand. Honestly, I have so many nicknames at this point, I can't even keep track of all of them, so just call me whatever the hell you want, I guess. Now, for context about my background and where I'm from, I'm Canadian and went to university for architecture with a full-ride athletic scholarship. After 2 years, I ended up deciding to go to college instead and graduated as an architectural technician. Now, I've had many different jobs throughout my life, but nothing's ever felt creatively fulfilling enough to see myself doing long term. But about 2 years ago now, I decided to download Unity with zero coding experience and started making small scale projects for fun. At this point, I had no idea I wanted to start my own studio or publish games on Steam. But after about a year messing around, making random things, I gained enough confidence to officially create my own Canadian business to publish games and called it Bean Juice Studios. This is a sole proprietorship, and for those who might not be familiar, that essentially means it's an unincorporated business run by a single individual. From doing my research, it seemed like this was going to be the best way for me to publish my own games, and after doing a bunch of boring legal shit like getting a business number and GST, HST number, submitted all my information and applied to become a Steamworks partner. I was accepted the following week, but man, I could just remember that feeling of excitement just seeing the notification thinking this is just the beginning. I started binge watching all these different videos about new developers sharing their experiences, watched basically every single GDC video in existence, and pretty much consumed every ounce of knowledge I could find about game development. I still obsessively try to learn new things every day, but a lot of that has shifted more into understanding game design and player psychology. After doing a bunch of research, I came to the conclusion that if there's any chance I wanted to make a game that's successful for the scale of my studio, it needed to be 2 things: small and unique. I can't produce something even close to what a studio of 100 employees can. This means if I wanted to make a multiplayer game inspired by Rocket League but in space, yes, this was my first game idea by the way, that would take so much money and years of development that I'd throw in the towel before I even had the chance to publish it. Because of this, I knew I needed to start small, and maybe as my studio keeps growing, I'll be able to fully pursue that idea someday, but right now, I have to be realistic even if it means soaking up my ego and making a very small but niche game. My long-term business strategy was, and still is, incredibly simple. Make low-risk games, and a lot of them. One of the things I learned is that the majority of studios and publishers typically rely on their back catalog in terms of revenue, not new releases. So I wanted to make sure I didn't invest too much time on a single project or make something live service which can hinder my progress long-term. I figured if I did this over a couple years, I can build up a back catalog, which is incredibly important for any video game studio because I knew I shouldn't expect my first or even second game to succeed financially. I went into this hoping I could learn as much as possible from the experience of publishing a game and use that knowledge to improve on the next one I make. I'm sure there'll be a time when I'll be ready to take that plunge into larger scale games, but when I do, I'll hopefully have enough cushioning from my previous titles to stay in business if it ends up failing miserably. I mentioned earlier that I played sports in university and college, and some people might roast me for this, but that sport I played was volleyball. Now don't get me wrong, I loved a lot of sports, but something about the adrenaline of trying to keep something up while relying heavily on hand-eye coordination and reaction time gave me the idea to make an arcade keep-up game with musical elements and abilities. Based on the beats per minute or tempo of the music, a ball spawns from the sky, and if that ball falls below your screen, you lose a life. To keep them up, you use this much larger ball, which follows your cursor to hit them upwards. Players also have these 2 musical magical abilities to either apply bass, which slows down the falling balls, or treble, which freezes them in place for a split second. There's 20 levels increasing in difficulty, a free played mode, custom mode where players can create their own levels to train or mess around, and an arcade mode with global leaderboard. JINKO took roughly 3 months to develop with the help of my friend Cooper, who volunteered to contribute when he could in his spare time to gain experience. He's still around to this day, so shout out to him. Leading up to launch on August 8th, I hosted a closed beta test with a handful of people, posted daily videos promoting the game for a couple weeks, but after getting only 127 wishlists, realized it wasn't worth the time or energy to keep posting content for. In the first month, it sold 69 copies and made a total of $215. Now, I knew game development was going to be hard, but this was a wake-up call I desperately needed. Pardon my language, but I couldn't fuck around anymore, and if I didn't pick the concept for my next game wisely, that might just be life or death for my brand new video game studio. There's a reason why the majority of developers on Steam only release one game, and that's simply because their game didn't reach a level of success they needed to keep going. Making games, particularly solo, requires such a wide set of knowledge in so many different departments, and since there's absolutely no way for one single person to master all of those aspects, I decided to lean into my strength, which I feel like is design. I've always been relatively good at designing complex things and solving problems, and because of that, I felt the need to try to make something more fulfilling to develop and play. I have a huge appreciation for sandbox-style games, but in particular, I really enjoy games like Polybridge. At the root, it's a puzzle game, but as the player, you're given a set of tools to complete a task and never forced to beat a level in a certain way. Now, there's a lot of things I really enjoy about it, but the one thing I liked the most was how you create something, press the play button, and then watch your solution either fail or succeed. There's hardly any games that take advantage of this concept, so I decided to try to make something with my own twist. Originally, I had no idea how I was going to apply this concept to my own game, but while prototyping, I found placing different shapes to sink the golf ball in a hole felt incredibly satisfying. Also, around this time, I noticed it had a very close similarity to mini golf, so I decided to fully lean into it, adding a bunch of wacky and unique obstacles like portals and black holes to either avoid or use to solve the puzzles. Usually in golf games, you have different clubs to hit the golf ball and then wait for it to stop moving before taking another stroke. But this game is completely different. I wanted to find a way to mesh these golf elements seamlessly into the game, which is when I came up with the idea to make each piece you place count as a stroke. If a level was par 3, that would mean the expected solution would take roughly 3 pieces. Now, after putting all these systems together, the progression was the only thing left. I could have just made it one simple level selection screen where you need to beat a level in order to unlock the next one, but that alone would be boring. So I decided to make a full campaign with characters and lore, various courses in different regions across the globe, and a shop for players to spend their tournament winnings to purchase more pieces to upgrade their golf bag. As the levels get more difficult, picking and choosing which pieces you bring to solve a course can really end up impacting your overall score. This ended up being a perfect complement to the game mechanics and thankfully wasn't too complex to implement. So after making it testing over 200 levels, PUTTLER ended up taking around 8 months to develop. March 28th was the release date, but this time I knew I couldn't just half-ass the marketing like I did with JINKO, so I really focused on short-form content and sticking to daily uploads. I gave myself more than a few weeks this time and ended up posting daily for 2 months in a row leading up to launch. I didn't miss a single day, which I'm very proud of, and sometimes even ended up posting 2 videos a day. I had the mentality that even if I don't get many views, there's still a chance someone could see it and be interested, so spending a couple hours a day to promote the game for the hundreds of hours it took to develop seemed like a no-brainer. I ended up averaging roughly 50k to 200k views a day between YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok throughout this period, and on launch day, the game had accumulated just over 1,500 wishlists. Now, this wasn't the only marketing I did. I also sent out around 40 to 50 emails to influencers who I thought might play and enjoy the game. I know this is a lot less than what experts recommend, as they say you should send out hundreds, but I wanted to make sure I didn't just copy and paste the same message. I actually took the time to write a personal email for each of them, explaining how I was a new and inspiring game developer releasing my first commercial game on Steam. I sent them pre-release keys and never asked for any of them to make a video or stream the game, but after getting emails back from 2 YouTubers with both over 2 million subscribers, I felt like I was living in a dream. These 2 were Boom Gonza and The Real Civil Engineer. I know how insane this is hearing because I literally felt the exact same way at the time. I always saw these famous people playing new and popular games coming out, but I genuinely never thought that could be my game someday. Both of their videos performed very well and had some of the nicest comments I've ever seen on a video. Without both of these guys, I genuinely don't think PUTTLER would be anywhere near the level of success it is today. So huge thank you to them. I'm sure some of you are wondering how these influencers impacted the game's sales and wishlist, so let's dive into all those analytics. The first day of release, PUTTLER sold 247 copies, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. This was the same day that Boomgonza posted his video, which got around 100k views at the time. It's also important to note that the YouTube algorithm gods blew up my channel a few days leading up to launch. My channel spiked at around 650k views a day, which ended up being incredible timing. With this exposure, it sold even slightly more copies the next day at 250. After about a week, it was still selling consistently, maintaining around 40 to 60 sales a day, but there was something coming that I wasn't looking forward to, and that was the launch sale ending. The game retails for $7.99 USD and had a launch discount of 20% off for the first 2 weeks, so I was terrified to see what would happen when it went back up to full price. Instead of completely dying off like I thought it would, it was still pulling in around 20 to 30 copies a day, and then something absolutely amazing happened. Someone sent me a message on Discord telling me that the real civil engineer just uploaded an entire 16-minute video to his channel playing my game PUTTLER. As you can imagine, this ended up boosting sales quite a bit, pushing the game back up to around 50 sales a day, but this time at full price. In the first month, it sold just over 2,200 copies and generated $15,000. Earlier, I mentioned that the game launched with 1,500 wishlists, but a month after release, that number skyrocketed to over 5,000. I learned a lot from developing and publishing these two games, so I wanted to take a second to talk about some of the struggles and what I learned. With JINKO, I found out that I'm not ready to develop competitive games. There's so much I never considered when first coming up with the idea, like needing a basic anti-cheat, encrypting player stats since it's client-sided, and even things like making sure the leaderboard had enough players to fill up. Even though there's a lot of little things, one of the biggest mistakes I made was simply making a game for a really small niche of people. It didn't have the best execution, but arcade games are typically incredibly hard to make successful and are pretty much a dime a dozen. For some reason, I thought making a small game meant it needed to be niche, but I learned quickly those things are completely unrelated, and that it's actually possible to make something smaller scoped while also interesting a much larger group of players. When it comes to PUTTLER though, I had a completely different experience. If you know anything about Unity, it's not necessarily meant for deterministic physics, and games like PUTTLER, which need to rely heavily on making sure the same outcome occurs every time you press play, was a complete nightmare to get working. Besides all that though, PUTTLER really helped me learn the importance of building a community. After the game launch, I continued marketing it, but switched from sharing my progress developing the game to making videos featuring solutions from real players in the community. I'm not at all ashamed to say I farmed the absolute shit out of this because boy did it work. If you made it this far in the video, much love for listening along, and now that I've pretty much shared my entire journey with you, that basically leads us to where we are today. The studio has grown to over 14,000 on YouTube and Instagram, and we just reached 1,500 members in our Discord. The community is amazing, incredibly supportive, and I can't express this enough, but if you're a game dev and you don't have one already, please make yourself a server immediately. I try my best to make myself available to literally anyone that needs help or has questions for me, and I really think that's made a big difference so far. Without having Discord as the main hub for my studio and place where I can communicate with players on a personal level or get suggestions and feedback, I genuinely don't think I'd be where I am today. Speaking of Discord though, I host giveaways in there for free copies of my games, so make sure to join up if you're interested. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you want to follow my journey or get updates on our games, don't forget to subscribe, and see you beans in the next video.